What if I told you there's a place in America where the most dangerous men alive are locked away so tightly?
There's everything that you can imagine, plus a lot I can't discuss.
Escape isn't even a thought? It's impossible? A place so extreme even the guards call it the Alcatraz of the Rockies? This is ADX Florence, the Supermax prison in Colorado, where terrorists, mob bosses, drug lords, and spies are kept in near total isolation.
If somebody comes up to you and says, "Hey, nice shoes, why don't you give them to me?" That means I'm here to take your shoes. And if you give them to me, you're going to be my personal slave for the rest of the time you're here.
We're talking 23 hours a day inside a concrete cell, meals pushed through a slot, and zero contact with the outside world. It's designed to break the will of anyone who dares to challenge it. Today, we will tell you in detail about the ADX Florence and tell you how it operates and why it's considered the toughest prison in America. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and press the bell icon. Let's get started. The Alcatraz of the Rockies. It's not an exaggeration to say that ADX is the Alcatraz of the Rockies. This isn't just one prison, it's part of a 49-acre complex in Florence, Colorado. There are several buildings here, and each one has a different level of security. But ADX, it's the most important thing to be afraid of. The most locked down, quiet, and stifling place in all of the US prison system. Most of the cells here are small and made of reinforced concrete. These cells aren't just for holding people, they're designed to lower every possible risk. Even hurting yourself. That's creepy on its own if you think about it. A prison so strict that you can't even think about hurting yourself. Everything here runs on accuracy. A lot of staff compared to inmates, supervision all the time, sensors for movement, cameras, push a button to make the doors slam shut. If ADX wanted to, it could lock the whole place down in a matter of seconds. You might now be wondering why they even needed to make a place like that. The story starts with a bloody day in the 1980s when violence in another prison changed everything. The 22nd of October, 1983. A normal day at USP Marion in Illinois, which was one of the hardest prisons in the US at the time. And then, in just a few hours, 2 prison guards were killed in a horrible way. Officer Merle Kutz comes first. Then, there was Officer Robert Hoffman. The Aryan Brotherhood members Thomas Silverstein and Clayton Fountain did both attacks. These weren't random outbursts. They were planned, cold-blooded murders. And they sent shockwaves through the whole prison system. At the time, Norman Carlson was in charge of the Bureau of Prisons. He knew that something had to change. The system couldn't keep housing men who didn't care about life at all without putting everyone else in danger. What did he say? Make a different kind of jail. One where the most violent, dangerous, and out-of-control prisoners would be kept in cells so tight that they couldn't hurt anyone else. USP Marion was put on lockdown for good and became the test case. And in the end, that plan became ADX Florence. But building something like ADX wasn't simple, and surprisingly, the local town actually wanted it. Building a fortress. You'd think that no town would want a Supermax prison like ADX, let alone a regular one. But what about Florence, Colorado? They were all in. There were already 9 prisons in the area, but the promise of hundreds of permanent jobs, 750 to 900 to be exact, was too good to pass up. The people in the area raised $160,000 to buy 600 acres of land for the new building. That's right, the town basically helped make this fortress real. Hundreds of locals came to watch history, or maybe infamy, being made at the groundbreaking ceremony. 2 architecture firms from Colorado Springs were hired to design it, and the result was a huge concrete and steel structure that cost $60 million. On January 10th, 1995, ADX officially opened for business, and when it did, it quickly became known for its reputation. This was now where the most dangerous men in America lived, the ones who were thought to be too dangerous to live anywhere else. And believe me, once you hear what life is like inside ADX, you'll know it's not just a prison, it's something more sinister. Things start to get scary here. Most of ADX is above ground, but the cell blocks are connected by tunnels that go underground. That alone makes the place feel more like a bunker than a jail. And then you get to the cells. Picture a room with walls made of cold concrete. There is a concrete desk, a stool, and a bed that is basically a slab with a mattress inside. Everything is bolted down. The bathroom? It stops working if you try to block it. The shower? Set to a timer so there won't be any flooding. What about the wash basin? made so that it can't be used as a weapon. The mirrors are also made of polished steel and are bolted to the wall. Inmates can turn their lights on and off, as well as watch TV and listen to the radio. Sounds like a treat, right? But here's the catch. They're not for fun. They're ways to keep things under control. Netflix, mainstream channels, religious services, and educational programs are all available now. It keeps the men busy, quiet, and most importantly, under control. The windows are now the most scary part. They are very small, only about 4 inches by 4 feet, and are set up so that prisoners can only see the sky and the roof. There are no mountains, no horizon, nothing to help them find their way. You can't even tell where you are in jail. It feels like living in a box that is floating in space. Do you want to work out? Don't think about grassy yards or tracks. It looks like an empty swimming pool, but it's really a concrete pit where prisoners can stretch their legs.
There is what ADX refers to euphemistically as a yard, which is really a kind of cement pen. Some of the people who we've spoken with there have likened it to being at the bottom of a deep, empty swimming pool.
It's so small that you can only walk in a straight line for 10 steps or walk in circles for 31 steps to complete a loop. That's their fresh air. Most of the time, food comes straight to their cells. But if they were moved from another prison, they might get to eat in a shared dining hall. But that's not very common. And on top of all that, the prison is locked down even more than Fort Knox. Sensors that detect motion. 1,400 doors that can be opened and closed from a distance. Pressure pads. Fences around the outside with razor wire on top that is 12 feet high. Guards with a lot of guns patrol all the time. There is a panic button that can lock down the whole place if an inmate even thinks about escaping. But it's not just the building, it's also how ADX keeps its prisoners apart. And the system is very harsh. Levels of control. ADX isn't just a big pile of cells. There are layers, and each one has its own rules and limits. The general population units are called Delta, Echo, Fox, and Golf. The unique housing unit. The H unit is where terrorists are held. The control unit is for the most violent gang leaders and people who break the rules. The step-down units are like a bridge between prisons. Inmates who behave can slowly earn a chance to go to less strict prisons. And then there's Range 13, which is the most secure part of ADX. It has only 4 cells for men who need to be completely alone. The steps are shaped like funnels, and they get wider or narrower depending on how the inmate acts. Do well? Maybe you have a little more freedom. Did you mess up? You go into Range 13, a place where almost no one comes back from. Even the reporters who got to see inside finally agreed that ADX didn't feel like any other prison in America. It felt worse. The Bureau of Prisons let a group of reporters visit ADX in 2007. It wasn't the noise or the chaos that got to them, it was the quiet. Henry Schuster, a producer for 60 Minutes, said that just standing in one of those cells for a few minutes made him feel like the walls were closing in on him. Just a visit made him feel bad. Now think about living there for years, even decades. Jamie Fellner, a Human Rights Watch researcher who visited the prison in 1998, said it had nailed the tough model. It wasn't too crowded and it wasn't messy, it worked well. Cold, quiet, and so efficient that it makes you feel like you're suffocating. Critics kept saying that this level of efficiency was bad because it led to isolation, which can ruin the human mind. And sure enough, ADX's biggest scandal wasn't about violence. It was about how solitary confinement was affecting the inmates' mental health. The mental toll. 11 prisoners sued the Bureau of Prisons in 2012, saying that ADX was basically a torture chamber for people with mental illness. The lawsuit, Cunningham versus Federal Bureau of Prisons, was a huge deal. What are the accusations? That the prison didn't pay attention to serious mental illness, didn't give the right care, and let men get worse until some killed themselves. At least 6 suicides had been linked to ADX by the time the lawsuit was filed. After that, a 7th man killed himself, and his case was added as well. And these claims weren't made up. Research conducted globally has demonstrated that severe solitary confinement can inflict enduring psychological harm, seeing things that aren't there, worry, hurt yourself, a complete breakdown of the mind. The case went on for years, but eventually things started to change. More staff for mental health, new rules that say everyone must be screened before and after they arrive, private therapy rooms, even allowing psychotropic drugs in the control unit again. It wasn't out of kindness, it was out of need. Because ADX, the place that was supposed to keep the country safe from its most dangerous men, was making some of those men crazy. And if you're curious about who lives in this concrete tomb, then it's time to know. The most famous faces. First, let's talk about Zacarias Moussaoui. People often call him the 20th hijacker from the attacks on September 11th. The FBI was already watching Moussaoui in 2001, before the towers fell. They arrested him in Minnesota after a flight instructor noticed something was wrong. Moussaoui wanted to learn how to fly a big jet, but he didn't care about takeoffs or landings. That's a red flag, isn't it? After the 9/11 attacks, prosecutors linked him to Al-Qaeda after the FBI looked into him. He was found guilty of working with the hijackers, even though he never got on a plane. Moussaoui didn't do much to help his case during his trial. He was loud in court, caused trouble, and even asked to testify at one point. He got a life sentence without parole, but he didn't get the death penalty. And where do you think he ended up? Florence, Colorado. He is just another number inside ADX. No audience, no spotlight, and no way to spread his ideas. He used to want the world's attention, but now he lives in a room with 4 walls and no noise. Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, who bombed the Boston Marathon, is next. In April 2013, the world watched in horror as 2 homemade pressure cooker bombs went off near the end of the marathon, killing 3 people and hurting more than 260 others. It was Tsarnaev and his older brother Tamerlan who did it. After days of chaos, gunfights, and a citywide lockdown, Tamerlan was killed in a police standoff and Dzhokhar was found hiding in a boat in someone's backyard. The trial of Tsarnaev was horrible. Survivors and their families filled the courtroom. The jury gave him the death penalty, but the case is still going through appeals. He has been sitting inside ADX while that happens. He is one of the youngest prisoners there, and life inside those walls takes away everything. His fame, his rebelliousness, and his cause. It's just him in the cell. Think about how quiet it would be after years of chaos, crowds, and cameras. That's ADX. There was Ramzi Youssef before the towers fell on 9/11s. He put a bomb in the World Trade Center's parking garage in 1993, hoping the blast would knock one tower into the other. His plan didn't work, but it still killed 6 people and hurt more than 1,000. Youssef ran away from the country, went underground, and lived like a ghost until the police caught him in Pakistan in 1995. Youssef didn't feel bad about what he did during his trial in New York. He even said that if his bomb had worked, it would have killed 250,000 people. He is now locked up in a concrete box at ADX for 23 hours a day. They call it administrative maximum for a reason. He can't spread his radical ideas, recruit new members, or plan anything. The 4 walls around him are the only people who can hear him. Terrorists aren't the only thing ADX is about. The feds also put some of the most dangerous mobsters in America in jail there. These guys used to run whole cities. Take the old school mafia bosses and rivals of Salvatore Sammy the Bull Gravano. After decades of running rackets, extortion, and contract killings, some of them ended up in Florence. Think about a man who used to lead an army of soldiers on the streets of New York. Now he lives alone and is completely alone. There were no visitors plotting in smoky back rooms or underlings waiting for orders, just silence. Another well-known name? Vincent Bastiano used to be the head of the Bonanno crime family. He was known for being ruthless and having a bad temper. Before he became a mobster, he owned a hair salon in the Bronx and was given the nickname Vinny Gorgeous. He is also serving life in ADX. In the past, mob bosses thrived on loyalty, secrecy, and power. But here, they don't have any power. The system that used to do what they wanted now tells them what to do. You might remember this one. Richard Reed got on an American Airlines flight from Paris to Miami in 2001, just a few months after 9/11s. He tried to light explosives that were hidden in his shoe while he was in the air. Before he could do it, passengers and crew stopped him. If he had been successful, almost 200 people on that plane would have died. Reed got a life sentence and was sent to ADX, just like the others. The man who once wanted to make news for killing a lot of people is now completely unknown. No chance to show off, no cameras, and no crowd. The only sound was the hum of the air conditioning in his cell. Cartel lords and drug kingpins. Not only terrorists and mobsters have lived at ADX, some of the most famous drug traffickers in history have also lived there. El Chapo Guzman, the Mexican cartel boss who ran the Sinaloa cartel, was one of the most well-known. He broke out of Mexican prisons twice. once by hiding in a laundry cart and once by digging a mile-long tunnel right into his shower. But once the US finally caught him, they weren't going to take any chances with another Houdini act. El Chapo was sent to ADX Florence in 2019. Here, escape isn't just unlikely, it's impossible. There is no way to get out of the Rockies, even for a man who once dug his way to freedom. The harsh truth of ADX Florence is what connects all of these stories. No matter who you are, a terrorist, a mob boss, a cartel king, or a lone wolf bomber, once you walk through those gates, you will be silent. There are no gangs in charge of the cell blocks, no guards who are paid off, and no phones that are smuggled in. There are only 7 by 12-foot cells, steel doors, and concrete yards. The past of each inmate is full of violence, chaos, and bad behavior, but inside ADX, they all have the same fate. They can't be seen. People remember what they did wrong, but every day they become less and less important, locked away, silent, and forgotten. So after hearing all of this, ADX Florence being the place where even the most feared men in the world are stripped of power and buried in silence, what do you think? Do you believe a prison this extreme is necessary for safety, or does it cross the line into something darker? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed diving into this story with me, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss any updates. Thanks for watching.